So does anybody have any questions? I'm going to open this up to a Q&A session, see if anybody has anything they want to ask me. As the Oakland Gun Rights Examiner, I tend to keep up with some of the developments on the latest gun control bills here in California, as well as the rest of the country.
What is Governor Jerry Brown's predisposition to AB 144? We know how he is generally politically, but what is his predisposition on this issue?
You know, Jerry Brown has, you know, he's a gun owner himself. He owns 3 guns. You know, he's been publicly, you know, stated that gun ownership is a very common thing. It's something that law-abiding citizens do, you know, in large numbers. What he's said that gives us hope on AB 144 is that he tends to look at a law and not want to change things unless there's some type of
Telling reason.
Yeah, telling reason. Yeah, so that's exactly you know, what his stance is on it. You know, being that he wrote the amicus brief for McDonald, you know, in support of our side of the issue, you know, I'd say that we stand a pretty good chance of seeing a veto on AB 144. You know, don't quote me on that, but we stand okay.
That's good.
Any other several bills in there?
Long
gun registration.
The long gun registration thing, you know, I think that his reasoning overall about how our long-standing policies really haven't, you know, there's no reason to change it. I think that's probably, he's probably also stands a good chance of vetoing it. He's probably going to sign a few of these into law, though, just so everybody knows, just to achieve balance, to appeal to his base. There's probably some that he's going to end up signing. Which particular ones, we don't know. But the ones that are super critical, like AB 144, I think we stand a pretty good chance of seeing a veto.
But keep writing your letters, folks.
Absolutely. Keep writing your letters. You know, keep the pressure on. Keep calling. We need all that, all the support that we can get.
But he knows none of us voted for him anyway, so.
Anything else from anybody else?
Now's your chance.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, I hate to be the only one asking questions here.
Not at all.
What really has me concerned is this United Nations General Agreement on Disarmament and the Small Arms Treaty.
Right.
Where is that standing in the federal legislature?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, the question was where the UN Small Arms Treaty stood in basically our in the Senate and in the House. Basically, if the Small Arms Treaty were to be, you know, were to come stateside, there's no way our you know, the Senate or the House would pass that, you know, basically into law. It's something that we do not have widespread support with. With the country being pretty much pro-gun in terms of the politicians that reside in, you know, both houses, it's just simply not going to happen.
Is it possible that the president could do parts of it piecemeal the way he is through executive order with the health care bill and the environmental EPA regulations that he can't get, you know?
Unfortunately, the answer to that question is, yeah, by executive order, the president can, you know, do many things where he can just skirt around the legislature and you know,
that's unconstitutional.
that is completely unconstitutional, exactly. Doesn't prevent him or a number of past presidents who have done similar things, though, unfortunately. Yes, sir.
Are you generally familiar with the sovereign immunity laws?
No, that does not sound too familiar with me.
Okay. Those are the laws that basically state that neither the police nor any branch of the government is responsible for protecting you.
Oh, okay.
And that's a good response when somebody asks you, why do you feel a need to carry on your own? You can then cite to them California Government Code Section 845 et al. And point out to them, this is what happened in the '92 riots. There were 4,500 lawsuits filed against the cities of LA and Long Beach. And under 845, you want to guess how many of them got a trial?
I'm sure 0.
That is correct, 0. So after all the burning, the looting, the murdering, the raping, all that, not a single one of those persons was allowed to collect any sort of reimbursement for their damages.
Wow.
So, and let me just say, if you want to look that up, do a search, California laws on police protection. And you'll get to a website that has a document by that name.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
When does Brown have to sign it, or when, if he doesn't sign it?
Technically, he doesn't even have to sign it. You know, if he decides to just sit on it, it'll automatically become law on January 1st.
Oh, without any action?
Without any action.
How does he not sign it then? How do you put it down? How do you
If he vetoes it, yeah, if he vetoes it, typically, you know, it's, you know, he probably has another 3 weeks or so to look at it and veto it if he so chooses. But he's already said publicly that he expects a lot of the 600, you know, or so bills that have appeared on his desk to be vetoed. So he's already warning, you know, a lot of people that that's going to happen. Gene?
Yes, for the folks here and have you, are there letters and phone calls that are directed to the legislators, in this case to the governor? Are they of any value?
Absolutely, absolutely, they're of value. The thing is, you know, specifically, since let me talk a little bit about the you know, writing at Jerry Brown, because it's relevant at this you know, particular juncture in time. Basically, you know, Responsible Citizens California has a legislative liaison, which is, you know, the fancy title for lobbyist up at the Capitol, lobbying on all of our behalfs. So her name is Elenia Helmentoller. I'm sure many of you know her name. Many of you have probably you know, even met her, talked to her, you know, talked to her on Facebook. And basically what she does is she goes up there and is able to get a lot of the insider information on what's going on, you know, at the Capitol. A lot of people who don't spend much time, you know, in Sacramento don't really realize or are not, you know, publicly aware that the face of politics basically has is kind of like two sides of one coin. You've got the public face, you know, where you talk to the press, you know, people, you know, put out their messages to what they want the press to print, and then there's the backdoor dealings. And the backdoor dealings is basically where all the real work, the bulk of the work gets done. You know, thankfully, Elenia is, you know, very talented. She has the ability to kind of navigate through those backdoor channels and you know, accomplish some real and meaningful results. So we're very fortunate at RCC to have her. But what she's been able to tell us is that Jerry Brown will read your letters if they you know, fit a certain criteria. And that criteria being that if it is limited to one page, if they are bullet pointed, okay, with basically, you know, each bullet point being no more than maybe a sentence or two. And you know, if you're very respectful in addressing Jerry Brown as Honorable Governor Jerry Brown, you know, within the confines of those criteria, he typically will read, personally read, you know, those letters that are, you know, presented to him in that way. Yeah.
The emails we send, are they screened by his people, or does they go right to his email?
I'm sure they are all screened by his people, but he's already instructed his people to let him, you know, see these letters that fit within this certain criteria. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so a lot of us here have made the effort to send emails, faxes, letters, made phone calls for the last few weeks.
Yes.
Do you have any measure of how much effort is being put in by the grassroots on the other side, if they're doing as equal? Because I've never gotten the feel of how much they do on their side.
You know, I talk to a lot of the people within the gun rights community here in California, and the overall feeling is that we've done so much calling that we've tied up the phone lines. So if the gun control lobby is really, you know, making phone calls, maybe a lot of those are not really getting through. So I'm sure, you know, generally we typically outnumber, you know, those in the Brady campaign and the gun control lobby, you know, significantly, you know, 4, 5, 6 to 1. So it's one of those things where I think that we're pretty effective at, you know, what we do. There's been almost this rejuvenation, almost a renaissance of gun rights here in California in the past few years. And you know, the state legislature is really feeling that pressure. You know, they've been able to get away with pretty much anything they want in terms of restricting our Second Amendment rights, but they know now that people are standing up and they're no longer, you know, taking that kind of thing. So you know, they got to be very careful about what they do here in the future. The thing is, you know, coming up in this next legislative session, starting in January, I think a lot of you will probably be pleasantly surprised about some of the gun control legislation that's going to be coming through. Some of the things we've been working for the past several years is probably going to show up, and surprisingly, not just from the Republican side. So, you know, a lot of that stuff has been possible only through you know, being able to navigate the backdoor channels in Sacramento.
Anything pertaining to concealed carry?
A lot of these things I am really not at liberty to discuss publicly. So, you know, just know that we're working on your behalf. That thank you for your efforts in supporting the cause, and there's going to be changes, I think, you know, that are going to bring a smile to a lot of your faces.
Hope so.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. Nice change.
Yeah, absolutely. No kidding. We've been in this fight long enough, huh?
It's never gonna end.
Yeah.
Of course.
So I guess that's it. Thank you very much for the opportunity, everybody. And thank you, Gene, for inviting me.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
Just a recap question. Remind me again the consequences if AB 144 passes.
Okay, so if AB 144 passes, we're still allowed to open carry unloaded handguns in the manner that we're currently doing until January 1st. Okay, upon January 1st, then we are no longer able to do that. It will become a misdemeanor to do so with, I think, a penalty of up to $1,000. Yeah, yeah, 6 months of jail.
Take your gun, too.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. But, yeah. Keep in mind, though, that only applies to handguns, okay? I know that this is kind of like an issue, like a sensitive topic for a lot of people in here, but it only applies to handguns.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. Oh, Bob.
We have another question over here.
Yes, Bob.
If that does happen, and it just applies to handguns, and let's say somebody chooses to carry a shotgun, what does that have to do with the 1,000-foot limit around schools?
That law still applies.
That still applies as
Yeah,
firearms.
still applies.
All firearms?
All firearms,
Does
yes.
does this long gun have to be in a locked container, though?
No. You're basically it's slung around your back or
Unloaded.
yeah, unloaded.
Okay. Doesn't
Yeah.
have, okay.
I would just encourage, thank you, Ian, I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
I would just encourage you to fight the good fight right up to the very last minute. You have worked very hard here in Southern California to win hearts and minds. And this could be a very long, drawn-out fight, but it's up to each and every one of you to make your minds up to what you're going to do should the law pass. This organization will not give you direction to march in the street with long guns.